And the kind of larger theological picture of talking about how we are all one system now, and with new both science and living systems, etc., and seeing that all of us are a united flow of energy, and not just a table and a rock and a head. Well, those are both rocks, but anyway, that there is that unity in all of creation. And I told Fred later, I said, well, you got my version of unitarian theology this morning. I was talking about one God, God is good, and it's all a creation, and that one spirit that comes forth from Stephen Hawking's little finger here. There's God in all of this creation, but it's whatever name you want to call it. Energy, love. But we're talking about then what are the forces that we are up against, some of the forces that we are up against. And we do seem to have malicious minds that have the ability to turn what was meant to be a love garden into various means of confronting each other. And they get more and more insidious all the time. It's pretty overwhelming about how clever we can be at creating more and more systems of violence. Having been sort of fascinated with that stuff since I was a little kid, I grew up in the Second World War era when we were just moving from kind of a laid-back country, coasting between different wars and things, and built into the most efficient, modern, progressive technology, particularly through airplanes, airspace, and then missiles and all of that. And now we're continuing to advance beyond the imaginable. Every day it seems like something new develops. Everything I read is continually showing some new development of technology. I have a friend, we both went to high school together. Then I went to Loyola and UCLA and graduate school. He went to Caltech and Berkeley, studying to be a nuclear engineer. And he got way out into space, and so he actually was ending up, he died not very long ago. His wife's actually carrying on with the rest of the family, but they put on annually a fair of the latest in global technology. Now Bruce Gagnon does that with a network for global, for no nukes, weapons, and power in space. That is the kind of thing we're very interested in, but these people are the ones who are interested in developing and selling, marketing. He was into developing, his wife was into marketing, all these various inventions in space, and they just really kind of terrify you. One time I lived in Las Vegas for a long time, and we did our work with the Nevada test site, and that was our big venture, was to shut down the test site. And we did get a moratorium through George Bush, but through pressure that was put on in Congress, through so many people coming out to nonviolent demonstrations and contacting their Congress people and so forth, and we haven't had any nuclear tests other than these very small ones since the time of George Bush Sr. But at the same time, they continue to develop these things, and it goes on and on and on, and that's just been my fortune or fate or something like that to be caught up. You see, I really like being in the light, don't you? This is pretty bright, but over here it's a little less intense. And the fact that they continue to develop these new kinds of weapons is a test. Well, and I've been fortunate to kind of stumble into them. I happened to be in Las Vegas at the end of the Vietnam War, and we were, doing the same things there as we were doing here in terms of trying to stop the war, draft stuff, draft resistance, and so forth. But then when it was over, we said, well, gee, that's all winding down now. And people said, yeah, but the nuclear arms race is growing. And so that's why we got involved in trying to stop the testing, because that's the cutting edge. And they've not been testing major weapons since then, but they're continually trying to pass them. And now they're renewing all of the new facilities through a really $1 trillion nuclear program that's been going on and on for some years. And in Kansas City and Tennessee, in Los Alamos, they're building an entirely new plant there. They're continuing to build and build and build. Just in case, just in case, just in case. Well, it's all in violation of the Non-Proliferation Treaty and the Article 16 that we will get rid of our sources of nuclear weapons and certainly do everything we can to de-escalate. We get very excited about what they're doing in Iran, which is really nothing compared to what we've been doing. They still have no nuclear weapons. I had a sign I was carrying around from, and it talked about nuclear weapons. It mentioned Albuquerque, 1745. You know, Tehran, Iran, how many? None. You know, etc. Okay. So we're, all right, so we're, does that mean 14 done or 14 to go?
Good talk.
So we are out there in the Nevada desert. We were looking at the weapons and trying to stop the weapons and control the developments. And at the same time, we happened to stumble across at Creech Air Force Base, which is right near the Nevada test site. Nevada test site's about 50 miles out of Las Vegas. At Creech Air Force Base, which is a few miles short of that, we had an air base that was used to supply for the firing range for Nellis Air Force Base. So they would put, tanks and houses and trucks and things out there and use them for target practice and that sort of thing. And all of a sudden we noticed these funny looking planes, and what they turned out to be, we were told over at the Goddess Temple, which is across the street, a woman named Jeanette Vaughn started it some years ago to try to be a way of gathering some kind of spiritual force against all of this war stuff in the name of the women and the goddesses. And so there's a priestess there, and she was saying, yes, those are these drones, and they live in Las Vegas, and they come out here and fly these drones. And she also was giving instructions to the chaplains on paganism, to how to be minister to people. And so she had people coming out there from the chaplains service, and they were saying, yes, we're having trouble now with the young people that are going out there and operating these drones. So they're trailers. Now I think they've built so many big buildings out there. They're probably in buildings, but they were in trailers, and they were like arcades. And they would have basically a pilot and then a sensor operator, which was the cameras and the lasers that guide the missiles in the booth. And then they were flying planes that were actually in Pakistan. So somebody in Pakistan had to guide them as they took off, and then they would take over by satellite, and using pictures would fly into targets that had been pointed out to them and drop bombs from Hellfire missiles, they called them. Originally it was just pictures, then it was Hellfire missiles. And they would be attacking them. In one case, they blew up a school. In other cases, families. Most of the people that have been blown up are civilians. 30 to 90% of them are civilians, and very few Al-Qaeda members and a few Taliban members. But basically, often they're just somebody that someone points out to. That was in the original attacks in Afghanistan, if you recall. There were so many different tribal groups that one would give information and get money for giving information from the U.S. and then point out somebody, one of their rivals' houses and places and so forth. And some of the things the press tried to point out that they can use these sophisticated cameras to see there's some swings in the yard, don't attack that. But in fact, they were following up on such things. And one case here recently, they blew up a convoy of food and claimed they thought it was arms. And then the next day, they went and blew up the funeral. I mean, give us a break, at least let them die in peace. So it is having a marked effect on the people there. And when they talk about those who are doing interrogating in places similar to Guantanamo and doing the interrogation, they find that all the new members have really joined because of those attacks. At the same time, it's having a very harsh effect on the young men who are in the planes, especially the old pilots are older and experienced combat people. They're a little more hardened, but these young guys are having a lot of PTSD shortly after they get out of boot camp, like being involved in these. In fact, we have signs out there that will say, the drones, you don't hear the groans because of the noise of the drones as the children are crying, something like that. And they said, well, we killed them all. they'll just say that on the way out. Yeah, we killed them all, you know, today. This is what we did today.